My name is Sensei Rudy Vidaurri. I am the owner and head coach of Apex Predator Mixed Martial Arts in Rancho Cordova, and you're listening to The Vidaurri Effect. Today I want to talk about self-worth. It's important. Who are you? What are you made of? It's questions you have to ask yourself. Not let anybody else decide what that means for you. All too often, people get caught up living a life as a means to an end in the rat race, and they let everything else define who they are, what they do, how they do it. But there's a bigger picture. You know, if you look at who you are really deep down and you don't let what you do for work or the music you listen to or the car you drive define that, you have to think about your own self-worth, your own value, and what makes that. I think a lot of times it comes down to happiness. It comes down to being self-content, feeling good enough, feeling like you matter. And sometimes you have to fake it till you make it. But with all sincerity, you have to earn it. You have to earn your worth. This day and age, there's consolation prizes and participation medals, something that in my line of work doesn't cut it. As an MMA coach, there's wins and losses. It's black and white. It's unfair. And as unfair as life can be sometimes, that's who makes it. It's sink or swim. But sometimes you have to fail. Sometimes you have to win. But through it all, you build value, you build experience, you build wisdom over the years. And by the time it's all said and done, when you can look back on it all, you want to say that you did it, that you were worth something, that you mattered, and that you left your mark in life. You know, I think about this. There's kids that starve in third world countries. People are worried about things that absolutely have no significance in the grand scheme of things. And they worry about the things that happen to them. How can this happen to me? Why me? You know, part of this is just that you have to look at a glass half full kind of approach. Be an optimist. Think about the things that you do have in your life, the things that are going for you, and create value in those things. Don't look at what you don't have. Don't look at what you are not, but look at the things that you have achieved. And if you haven't, if you're not completely satisfied with who you are as a person right now, my challenge to you is to go out, achieve, put one foot in front of the other until you do, until you feel content, until you feel like you're worth it, until you have self-worth, because that's how it's earned. One step at a time, one day at a time, one round at a time, however you want to see it. Go out there and put yourself out of your comfort zone. Try, fail, good. You mess up, now you know how to do it better next time. I think people like to associate with different things. People like to have different identities. People like different shiny things that they can hold on to that large groups of people approve of. But be original. You know, it takes balls to be original. And that's something that as you start to look at what works for you and not what works for everybody else, you start to understand what really does it for you, what strikes a nerve, what makes you go, what inspires you, what motivates you, what you're passionate about, what you love. Don't just jump on the bandwagon. Don't just follow the herd, be a leader. Nothing good comes overnight, but the building process is that much more rewarding when in the end you earn it, you finish, you achieve. Blood, sweat, and tears, you fight for it because there's more value in sincerity and being real. And you'd rather not have popularity and go out on this journey alone and achieve your self-worth and achieve value in yourself and your soul than be part of the herd and follow. You know, part of this is looking at what you do. You have online resources, social media, etc. Stop letting that dominate your perspective. Everybody wants to look at pictures of people online or what they portray themselves as. I'm going to tell you right now, if social media was 100% honest and gave insight into everybody's lives, people wouldn't use social media because there's the good, the bad, and the ugly in life. And on social media, people only portray the good. They only show you what they want you to see because deep down, everybody has skeletons. Everybody has things that they're not necessarily proud of, but you have to own those things. You have to fight through those things. You have to improve those things. You have to be honest with yourself about what they are, who you are, and how you get past them. So stop looking at your phone every 5 minutes. Stop looking at what other people post and hold that as a standard for you. Set your own standards. Be original. Look at yourself and where you want to be in the next week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, months, years, and start putting one foot in front of the other so that little by little you get to where you want to be. And not just take a picture with a filter and post that you were somewhere doing something great. You can't fake originality. It's better to be real, because I'd rather be real about where I'm at, even if it's not up to my standards or anyone else's, than be fake about where I want to be. And today I sit in front of somebody who I admire greatly and who is a very real person, and somebody who is a friend, and she knows something or two about originality, and her name is Jennifer Steele.
Thank you. Yeah, boy, I've had a long career in radio, and it's been an interesting ride as far as becoming an entertainer who can be real, I guess. Our business switched over a long time ago from that DJ sound to a more realistic sounding person, and it was kind of tough to make that switch at first, but
Yep.
it's been really fun to try to be myself, and it's hard to be transparent like that sometimes. You put yourself out there and maybe you have an opinion about something. Not everybody might agree with you. Not everybody's going to maybe like what you say.
It's true. You're not going to make everybody happy, and that's something that you have to get over real quick. A lot of people say they don't care about what other people think, but the bottom line is, unless you're completely secure with yourself, a lot of people do care what other people think. But you're not going to make everyone happy, and you have to do what's right for you. Not in a selfish way, but in a responsible way to others, and in a way that's going to make you be your very best, right?
Yeah. And you're talking about social media and friends on social media, quote, friends on social media. If anything, I would use that as a bouncing board to try to form some real friendships with some people. I mean, because really those are the people that matter, the ones that you have in person. And we're lucky to have 2 or 3 of those our whole life, maybe even one, that's going to ride it out with you and be your friend till the end. But those real relationships, those are the ones I think that we get the most out of.
Absolutely. It's about trust and loyalty. And the older you get, the older I get, I think, like you see, popularity is less important. It's more important to have a handful of people that will stick by your side through thick and thin, that you can trust, that you can confide in, than to have many people around you, and I'm a pretty popular dude. I own a gym. I'm a mixed martial artist. I'm a musician. I'm a podcaster, and everyone likes to call me a friend. But, there's a lot of acquaintances in that group. And, out of all of them, you start to see people's true colors when it hits the fan.
Oh, yeah.
For sure. It's better to have the people you can count on in life.
Yeah, absolutely.
And looking around you, this is my challenge to you guys again, my listeners. Think about who's around you. Think about what they are to you, what they mean to you, what their value is in your life, and what their self-worth is, and what their confidence levels are. Or are there people that are emotional vampires and suck it all out of you, or lean on you, or kind of drain you because they're constantly complaining or constantly needing you to pick them up? Sometimes people are insecure, or people have different inadequacies, insecurities, and sometimes that comes out in resentment. They want to hold you down. They want to constantly knock you down a peg because they're not completely comfortable or happy with where they're at. Their self-worth isn't where it needs to be. But you got to think about who you are and what your self-value is. And if you're surrounding yourself with people that are acquaintances, might be kind of haters to you, or if you're surrounding yourself with people that also value self-worth and productivity, and to be always constructive in their dealings with you. It doesn't mean you have to be selfish. It doesn't mean you have to be a gold digger. It doesn't mean you have to go around and try to use people either. But it's in a sincere way to make friends that you can trust, that respect you, and then in the end will help you grow along this journey of life.
It's hard to, I think it is very hard to be okay with who you are, regardless of what anybody else thinks. That's a really tough thing to do. And I've struggled with that myself in my past. I've gone through periods in my life where my insecurities got the best of me. I mean, nobody is immune to that. And it doesn't take much sometimes to make somebody question themselves and that's what starts happening is when you start questioning yourself, then it all starts to crumble, and you do really have to reach out for those people that are the real friends, the ones that you can really count on, because it's hard to be true to yourself and know your self-worth. It's hard.
It's a process. And I think as we get more wise and get more experience and maturity through time and through experiences, it's easier to overcome self-doubt and to be confident that no matter what you're dealing with, you can get through it and you can overcome the hurdles and obstacles that life likes to throw you with these curveballs sometimes. But yes, if you're a youngin' and you're listening to this and you're still just trying to figure out who you are, you need to think about what it is that drives you, that you're passionate about. And sometimes that self-worth you can have outlets for. You can build value. For me, it was mixed martial arts, and it was something that I could just dive head first into. And I was exhausted and I felt beat after I was done. And I'd kick the crap out of somebody while I was getting kicked out of the crap, for me, myself. And it was something that just was such a great feeling. And that gave me value because I knew there is only a small fraction of people, of a percentage on this earth that could walk onto a mat or into a cage or into a ring and do what I did and still survive it and still be good at it, So yes, very difficult, but you got to find what it is that drives you. If it's mixed martial arts, great. Hey, come sign up at my gym. But if it's something else, whatever rows your boat, and as long as it's healthy, as long as you guys are staying away from the things that are going to bring you down, that are going to sabotage you, getting into hard drugs or drinking every day like I did ultimately cost me, almost my life, and through those experiences, I was able to learn a lot and be wise and help others now teach from my mistakes so they don't walk the same path and they can avoid those, which makes me, an even better coach, not only for mixed martial arts, but as a life coach, and I had to suffer the consequences. I had to suffer drug overdoses. I had to suffer jail time, and these were things that ultimately in the end made me stronger and gave me more self-value than I even knew I was worth, because at the time I didn't care as much. But in the end, and only through the pain, was I able to see who I really was. Because if I could withstand those kind of challenges in life and I could overcome those to achieve beyond my wildest dreams, then it was all worth it.
I think it's also important to remember that nobody has control over your emotions but you. So if you give someone the power to make you feel bad, that's kind of on you. You have to not let them make you feel a certain way. And I think once we all start to remember, and I have to remind myself of that, I think we all do. But once you remind yourself and you really start to believe it, so maybe that person doesn't like what you're wearing and they told you to your face, well, I don't care if you don't like what I'm wearing. I like it anyway. And I'm not going to let you make me feel bad about it.
Yeah, it's very true. You are in command of your life, of your mind, and the feelings that you feel, and, one person told me a long time ago, don't ever let anybody take your peace of mind. And that was something that was reiterated in a movie a long time later that I watched, was that don't ever, it was misconstrued, but it was a translation and a language barrier. The person said, don't let anybody take your piece of brain.
It's about the same thing.
Yeah, it's the same thing. But, whether you let somebody take your piece of mind or your piece of brain, however you want to look at it, that's something that ultimately you have the control over, and something that they don't.
Yeah, for sure.
And, like I said, sometimes it's the people closest to you think are the ones that are, in your corner sometimes, but only through life experiences and through tests, which is really is. Sometimes your friendships are tested, or you're put in situations where maybe you're not the popular guy anymore, or maybe you're down and out, or maybe you're hurting and you're struggling and you need a hand or a helping hand, and you see who's around and who's not, because all through the good times, it's real easy for people to stick around and be cool and hang out and be part of the crowd. Yeah. But, when you're down and out and nobody's around, it's like the people that are there, that are still like, hey, man, I'm your friend no matter what. Those are the people you have to remember. And those are the people that you also have to foster the friendships with and pay it forward, because ultimately, when you look around in the end, there's only going to be a couple of them, 2, 3 of them in life that you can really count on.
That's important to not forget, too, is it's a two-way street with friendships with people. I mean, it's one thing to surround yourself with people who make you feel good about yourself, but you also have to be able to be that person for other people, too, and recognize when people maybe need that from you, because not everybody's going to ask for it.
Yeah.
No, not at all.
No, and it's the same thing, like if you really kind of think of others in the way that almost like from an objective standpoint, sometimes we get so caught up in, oh, well, shit, this is what I did today, or this is what I'm doing, or this is where I'm going. And, like I said, the rat race, that we forget about others' feelings. But it's also important to take a time out and think about what they're going through, what they're thinking, what they may be, on the brink of dealing with, whether it's catastrophic or whether it's like glorious. You always have to like think of others too. And as you learn to put others first and not be so self-centered, it's a great lesson, because then you really start to see what it is, because it's paid forward in the end. The more you put out there, the more you help people and help others, it comes back to you. And you shouldn't do it in a selfish way, but you should just do it in a way that's good and good for the soul and generous and kind and loving. Because in the end, I think everybody needs that. And the more you project that and the more you do that, the more it comes back to you, and the world will be a better place in return, Absolutely.
One thing I've always been really fortunate to be able to do through radio, for my whole career, I was always the public service director, and I always had access to different charities that we would work with through the radio stations. And it gave me an opportunity to be out around different charitable organizations and around people that I may not normally have been around, to really see how some of those organizations help them and really hear their stories and things like that. We've done a lot of food drives, a lot of things with the food bank, and coats for kids and things like that. And it is the best feeling, and it really is. I mean, when you walk away from something like that, and when you helped make a difference in somebody's life, and you actually saw one of the people that it made a difference for, it is the greatest feeling. And that kind of thing, like you said, that really adds to your self-worth for sure.
There is no better value than to lend a helping hand, and at the beginning I talked about people in third world countries, and sometimes it's not even about necessarily helping that person firsthand, but just recognizing their struggle. I've seen kids in third world countries that are dealing with disease, they're dealing with famine, they have nobody around to really help them out or educate them or feed them or clothe them properly. And even though I can't be directly involved in their improvement or helping them, just seeing that makes me feel like I am worth a lot more than I think I am, because I know deep down, no matter what's going on or what I'm struggling with, I got it so much better, and I have so many more resources and so many more abilities and so many more things to be grateful for.
Yeah.
And that I never take for granted what I have, because when you start looking at the people that don't have it, it's very difficult. Sometimes it's sad, and I can't reach out and help everybody. I wish I could. And I hope through this podcast and just through my words that people find strength and they find the ability to step forward out of their shell and into something new and better. And I want you guys to help others. I want you to see somebody if they're struggling. Improve your self-worth. Be a better person. Be a human being. Go up to somebody that you don't know and offer how you can help them. It's important. Random act of kindness for a perfect stranger this week. If you got it in you, if you got the heart, if you got the courage, nobody does that kind of stuff these days. But that's my challenge to you guys this week. Doesn't matter where you're at. If you're in Walmart and you see a family that looks like they may be struggling, say, hey, can I buy you a couple of things on me? What can I do to help you? Hold the door open for somebody. Don't be in such a rush. Get out of your space and thinking that everything you're doing is the most important thing in the world all the time. There's a whole world around you. There's a whole lot of people around you, right? And the more you recognize that, the more we all have to work together and help each other, it helps you out. It helps you feel better.
Today was National Compliment Day.
Really?
Funny that we should be talking about this on National Compliment Day. But one thing I had mentioned earlier today on the air was...
I like your hat.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Yeah. National Compliment Day. Yeah. I like your hat.
Well, go Jags.
But it's amazing when you give someone a compliment, how they take it, because some people are not used to hearing compliments at all. Mm-hmm. And I think that I've always tried to do this. If there's something I notice about somebody that I like, or that I think they look great, for some reason, or I tell them, because not everyone will stop and take the time to say something like that. And I think that a compliment can make the difference between somebody's really awful day and maybe not such an awful day.
It changes the trajectory of their day. And there's some people that are so overcome with emotion that you stop and recognize that in that person, that it's infectious. It's like a domino effect. It's contagious, because then they go out and they have a smile on their face. They bump into the next person. Maybe they're feeling so good that you recognize that, hey, they've been working hard on something, or maybe they lost a couple of pounds, or, they got their hair done, or whatever, whatever it can be. But that spreads, and it's a great way to help others. It reminds me of a story. This was about 2 months ago at my dojo, and I was coaching the morning fitness class for the women's cardio kickboxing, and there was a guy that was parked out front. His car was parked crooked in front of my dojo, and I could just tell something was off, because I've never seen that car there like that, and it wouldn't have been there for the surrounding businesses either like that. And I'm in the middle of coaching, and I see this guy come around the corner, and he was visibly upset. Looked like he was distressed, kind of dealing with a lot. You could just see it on his face. And he goes to his car, gets in, gets back out, breaks down crying. And in the middle of the class, I said, you guys go ahead and just keep hitting the bags. I got to make sure this guy's all right. So I went outside and I said, hey, man, are you okay? And he said, in all honesty, no, I'm not. And he just started crying to me, and he had served his country, and, he was dealing with some stuff. His family didn't want him in the house anymore, and you could tell he was just going through it. I think he just dealt with a breakup or something. But I said, hey, you can't make everybody happy, and you serve your country. I said, I salute that. I said, but, if other people aren't going to feel that, you can't force them to. And if people are going to appreciate that, or they don't, because he was saying, I served my country for 8 years, and this is the thanks I get, and I don't know what to do anymore. And I said, you can't worry about that. You just got to worry about right now, getting through this moment. You can't think too far ahead, because that's going to get overwhelming. You just got to think about right now. Are you okay right now? And he just kind of shook his head and calmed down. I said, because whether they think so or not, it's not going to matter. You got to be okay with you. And he went and sat in his car for a while, and then half an hour goes by. He gets out of the car, walks back in through the door, and he looks at me, and there's tears in his eyes, but like happiness, right? And he just says, hey, man, I want to thank you. I said, for what? I said, I appreciate that, but what did I do for you? And he said, I want to thank you because you saved my life. Aww. And I said, well, that's very special, but why? And he said, I was about to take my life today, and you asked me how I was doing. And all it took was you asking me how I was doing, because nobody has ever asked me how I was doing when I feel like this. But because you asked me how I was doing, it spared my life. And he gave me a hug. Aww. And I saluted him, and now every time I'm coaching at that hour, I see his car drive past, and it's the same dude. Oh, wow. And he's clearly still alive.
That's great.
All it takes sometimes is asking somebody how they're doing.
Yeah, I think going back to giving compliments and being nice to people, being in the moment, I think, is another topic that we can maybe talk on, because if you're not in the moment, you won't notice those things about people. It's something I struggle with really sometimes, because I get ahead of myself and I'm planning things and I'm thinking about what's happening next and all that kind of thing. But you really have to slow down and pay attention to what's going on right now at the same time. I think it's important.
It's incredibly important, focus and having not only your self-awareness, but being aware of what's happening around you. You know, I look at some kids these days. I've had a couple of kids walk right into my dojo, and it's not a big place.
Yeah.
So, you know, I'm clearly in charge, but they don't even acknowledge me, don't even lift their head from their phone or their iPad. And I'll walk right up to them and just pull the phone out of their hand and be like, you're in my establishment, you're in my dojo, you respect this place. And they look shocked. But, you know, sometimes you have to snap people out of their own little bubble, because people think that all I have to do is walk with my face down looking at my phone, and as long as I'm engaging whatever it is that makes me feel important on this little device, everything else doesn't matter. And, you know, I'll be quick to point that out with people. You know, I don't take any shit, and I certainly don't tolerate any disrespect.
Yeah.
So I'll take it if I have to. I command respect. But I think, yes, awareness is important. I see people at intersections walking across the street, light turns red, they no longer have the right of way, and their face is down with their headphones on their phone, and cars are starting to approach them. And people wonder why they end up getting hurt. You know, you have to be aware of what you're at, what you're doing, who you're dealing with at all times. And, you know, I don't want you guys to be paranoid. It doesn't mean you have to be constantly looking around your shoulder, you know, over your shoulder and you know, around the corner. But, you know, it's important, because that awareness can be helpful to others too. So self-worth, I want you to think about, as we conclude this episode, what it means to you, who you are, who you want to be, and doing the things to get yourself to get there. You know, it doesn't have to be rocket science. It's as easy as taking the steps, one foot in front of the other, every day you wake up, and making the momentum. You know, because momentum can be taken away with one bad decision. So it has to be good decisions, one at a time. Could take days, could take weeks, could take months or years, but the more you stack the good decisions, the more your worth is going to build. So take a good introspective look at who you are, where you're at, and take an inventory of that, because you never know what's right around the next corner once you start taking those steps to get there. Stay blessed.